Hot off the digital presses, it would appear that the Diamondbacks are finally making a move to fix their 27th ranked bullpen, and it comes in the form of Rays right-handed pitcher Pete Fairbanks.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, where we talk nothing but the D-backs Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I am your host, Daynen Biggs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. I was very excited to finally see some news and some speculation and stuff about something that I'm like, oh, hey, look, something that's actually plausible. Fantastic. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about it. We're going to talk about the potential of a Pete Fairbanks signing as the Diamondbacks closer for 2026 and beyond, I imagine. We're also going to be talking about the winter meetings coming up and what they are, what they mean, when they are, what's going on with all that, why it's important. And then we're also going to be covering a handful of other things that have happened that we're going to share with you guys. And also, I did not update my card on the side of the screen. Pop, there it goes. Okay, if you guys are just listening to this, imagine that everything was totally correct the entire time. Anyway, so let's talk about this. Pete Fairbanks. Now, Pete Fairbanks is he will be 32 years old this upcoming season. I believe this will be his 11th season, or this was his I think this will be his 11th season. And he has played for the Rays, and he's played for the Rays almost his entire career. He did play most of 2019, he played a little less than half, of his 2019 rookie season with the Rangers before getting traded to the Rays, and has been with them ever since. So that is 3, 6, 7. Oh, so this is his 8th season. I don't know why I thought 11th. I must have read that somewhere else. I've been trying to prepare for these podcasts a little differently to kind of make it a little easier on myself. And one of those is by doing a lot of reading, which I do anyway on all this kind of stuff, and not necessarily writing down every single statistic, maybe having the article up in a tab, but I don't have everything written out as thoroughly as I used to in my notes. And that's nice because it means that I can do this for a long period of time and not quit within a month of doing this. So that's been good. I'm not getting burnt out, but it's not good because sometimes I forget things. So apologies for that. I am far from infallible expert. I am just a guy who really, really, really likes the Diamondbacks and does a lot of research, but sometimes forgets stuff. And also, if they're not on the Diamondbacks, there is a very fair chance that I will mispronounce a name, as you are very well aware. And my dad is very ashamed of, but that's okay. Anyway, so Pete Fairbanks is, I saw that and I was like, okay, well, how is he doing exactly? Because I know he's been good. Is he still good? Yeah, he is still good. This last season, he had a 4-5 record as a relief pitcher, which is good. A 1.2 WAR, which is also very good for a relief pitcher. An ERA of 2.83, which I'll stop saying it, but is good for a relief pitcher. Pitched in 61 games, finished 48, and had 27 saves. I believe he has only 5 blown saves, which would account for those 5 losses. Pitched in 60 innings, gave up 22 runs, 19 earned runs, and walked 18, struck out 59. So nearly 9 strikeouts per 9, which is a little lower than like I guess you would hope for, but it's also considerably lower than what he was doing before. 2020 through 2023, 2023, he had a strikeout for every 9 of like 13, 14. It looks like his worst was 11.8. But then last year it dropped to 8.7. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I'm allergic to dropping stats, to worsening stats. And then this year is 8.8, so a little bit higher. However, his walk rate per 9 has gone down. 2023 was 4.0, then 3.4. This last year, 2.7. So I believe what it is that his command is still there, but the velocity, I believe, is going down a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. He's still pitching in the 90s and he's still got good stuff, but I think the strikeouts are happening just a little bit less because of that. But also, you take him out of the American League, put him in the National League with a bunch of teams he's never seen before, facing a bunch of teams he's never seen before, I bet you'll see that number go up. And then he has a whip of 1.044. So he allows one, like he comes in for one inning, he'll give up a walk or a base hit or something, but then that's it. He does not give up any. He really does not give up very many runners. So that's pretty cool. Now, what would he cost? Because that's the big question. There are a lot of conflicting reports on what he is worth right now. My website of choice lately, spottrack.com, says that he's worth about $15 million a year, which is a bit higher than what the Diamondbacks, I think, would be really willing to spend. Now, if Pete Fairbanks, I mean, he's not a super young player. He's also not a super old player. If we could get him on a long deal, he probably would be worth it. I think Pete Fairbanks is a fairly safe choice to go with. So if we were to dish out, and I've been saying it, if we're going to dish out a lot of money, it needs to be to a pitcher. Ideally, either a good starting pitcher or a good closer, and he's a good closer. So $15 million a year, though, would be pretty. I mean, again, we have an estimated $25 to $40 million to spend on free agency this year. So that would be, I mean, by some reports, over half, and by others, like a third. So that's a good chunk. But again, if you're going to spend that much money, I think this might not be a bad way to go. However, that being said, Fangraphs estimates that he would accept a 2-year, $16 million contract, which would cost only $8 million a year. That would be way more in the budget. Yesterday, I kind of said that I estimate that we're probably looking to spend no more than 7 or 8 million, max 10 million a year. 15 million would be above that, which I think, if that's the case, I think that would price him out. But that 8 million a year, definitely he's right there. A bit on the higher end, maybe, but definitely within what we're wanting, because we still have to sign 6 more players, 2 more. We would still have to sign 2 more starting pitchers, another relief pitcher, and a first baseman, and an outfielder or third baseman. So we still have a lot of people we need to sign. We still need a good amount of cash to be able to sign all those or trade for them, which is really going to be the thing. So I wonder what the suspected ratio is right now between, like, obviously they're not saying this publicly, but what is their thoughts on, okay, here are the positions we need. What percent of this are we thinking we'll sign, and what percent of this do you think we'll trade? I wonder if it's like a 50-50 sort of thing or something like that. But I'd be curious to see how that ends up going. So Spottrack says 15 million a year. Fangraph says 8 million a year. The Athletic estimates that it'll probably match Helsley's contract with Baltimore, which was a 2-year, $28 million deal, which would put it at 14 million a year. Slightly less than 15, but still pretty expensive. He will be 32 years old, so you probably wouldn't extend like a 6-year contract to him. Though, I mean, if you're confident that he's going to be healthy, which I believe he's been healthy pretty much his whole career, I don't see any serious. It looks like 2022 he had a pretty big drop in the number of games, but that's about it. The only other season other than 2020 that was lower is 21 games that he played in his rookie season. But that's not saying much. So, yeah, it seems like he's been pretty consistent. He did pitch a career high of 61 games this season. It's usually in the 40s, 47, 49, 46. So I wonder if that's going to impact anything. But if the Diamondbacks were to say, hey, you know what, we can pay him a lot less per year if we sign him for 3 or 4 years as opposed to 1 or 2, I think that'd be a totally good idea. I think this is a safer bet than like an all-star starting pitcher or first baseman, Anyway, we are going to take a little break, and then we're actually going to talk about a few more options for the Diamondbacks if Pete Fairbanks decides to go with anybody else, because there are other people offering and talking to him right now. So we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about the winter meetings and what that means for us and everything. So yeah, there we go. How's that for a little tease for the next segment? Anyway, stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, excuse me, and with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive, but let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app, the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. And we're back. And as always, I want to say thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen of the day. It really does mean so much more to me than I can express on camera or on microphone. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. That's crazy, crazy cool. All right, I'm gonna get used to these transitions at some point. I don't know. Hopefully they're not distracting when I'm fumbled between ad reads and before and after and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully it's fun to listen to. Let me know. Let me know if you have any constructive criticism. I absolutely would take it. I've received a bit, and I appreciate it. I've yet to be so offended that I cry outwardly, inwardly maybe, but not outwardly. Okay, so anyway, now Pete Fairbanks. The thing about it is, again, the Diamondbacks are not the only team talking to him right now. And the other teams that are talking to him, according to various reports, are the Tigers, the Marlins, the Blue Jays, and the Dodgers. Remember, the Dodgers had a pretty sucky bullpen last year. That was definitely their weak point. So the Dodgers are going to be looking to strengthen their bullpen as well. However, according to other reports, it sounds like teams like the Dodgers and the Blue Jays are already moving on from this. And I think they are like, you know what, this isn't for us. So from what I can see and from what I can tell, Fairbanks is available and willing to like negotiate. So, or maybe he's not, and that's why the Blue Jays and Dodgers stepped away from him. But either way, he is available. And if they're stepping away, then maybe the big money teams stepping away is enough for him to go, okay, maybe we come down a little bit on that. So, but there are other players that we can look at. So, one player is Emilio Pagan, who I think would be actually maybe not a better fit, but just as good of a fit. Really, he will be 35 years old this next season, so he's quite a bit older. He is a right-handed pitcher. He had a record of 2-4 this season with a 2.88 ERA. And remember, Fairbanks had a 2.83 ERA. So very comparable to Fairbanks. He pitched in 70 games, which is even more than Fairbanks, with 32 saves. And if the losses, I know having a loss does not necessarily equate to a save opportunity missed. Baseball Reference doesn't have, they should have a save opportunity stat. They apparently do not. So, but if that's the case, then he only blew 4 saves. That's pretty good for 36 save opportunities. I don't know if that's actually what it is, but anyway, he had 81 strikeouts in 68 innings and a whip of that's right, 0.917. Very good looking stuff. And he's got a wicked, I mean, he's throwing 10.6 strikeouts per 9, 2.9 walks per 9. And to compare that to Fairbanks, remember 10.6 strikeouts to Fairbanks 8.8, and then 2.9 walks to Fairbanks 2.7 walks. So a bit better on the strikeouts, very comparable on the walks. So I think Emilio Pagan would actually be fantastic. He has bounced around quite a bit. He played for Cincinnati last year and the year before, played for the Twins for the 2 years before that, the Padres from 2020 to 2021, the Rays in 2019, Oakland 2018, and Seattle in 2017. So he's bounced around a good deal. And his performance has bounced around quite a bit too. He started out at a 3.22, then a 4.35. In 2019, went down to a 2.31. Very good year for him. And these are all fairly consistent innings too, like games pitched, 55, 66 games. The lowest he had was in 2024. He pitched only 38 games, but every other season doing pretty well. COVID year, 4.5, but then in San Diego, it was 4.83, 4.43. So not very good there. But then in Minnesota, he pitched a 2.99 ERA. And then 2024 with Cincinnati went back up to 4.5. That was his shorter season. And then this last season, 2.88. So it does appear that Pagan fluctuates a little bit more. So that's something to keep an eye on for. But Emilio Pagan estimated worth, according to Spot Track, would be about $12 million a year, as opposed to Fairbanks is $15 million a year. So if we're able to bring, if it's a reasonable guess to bring Fairbanks down to $10 million a year, then it's reasonable to assume that we could bring Pagan down to $8 or $9 million a year. And then the other one that I wanted to bring up was Kyle Finnegan, who is also an older pitcher. He would be, where did it go? He'll be 34 as well. He had a 4-4 record, a higher ERA at 3.47, which is higher for sure. Not as bad. I mean, it's better than most of ours, so that's not bad at all. Pitched in 56 games, slightly less, 24 saves, 55 strikeouts and 57 innings, a whip of 1.105. Again, Fairbanks's whip was 1.044, so fairly comparable. Not quite as good as Pagan's. And but Finnegan has played on. He played for both Detroit and the Nationals this season, and he played for the Nationals every other season before that. So Nationals, and was traded to Detroit this season. And his ERA is fairly consistent as well. Started at 2.92 is his best. That was his rookie season, where he only pitched 25 games. And then from there is 3.55, 3.51, 3.67, and so on. So he is actually a very consistent pitcher. He's always right at about 3.5, give or take like 0.2. So that's actually not bad at all. To have somebody that you know what to expect from is pretty good. His strikeout per 9 is 8.7, which is very comparable to Fairbanks, and his walk per 9 is 2.8, which is also pretty comparable. So actually very comparable. Yeah, it was within 1 point on both of those. So any three of these guys, honestly, would do the job pretty well. Finnegan would cost an estimated $10 million a year, as opposed to Pagan's 12 million or Fairbanks' 15 million. Fairbanks is younger than Pagan and Finnegan. So there's that. He's also fairly consistent throughout his career. Pagan a little less consistent, but looks like he's really good when he's good. And then Finnegan is not quite as great, but is very consistent. So all very good things to look out for. Any three of these guys, I would be stoked as heck to get. So that's exciting. Let's talk about the thing that we were actually going to talk about in this segment, though, and that is the winter meetings. So the winter meetings is essentially when all of the owners and GMs and everybody, they all come together in Orlando. I believe this is when the Rule 5 draft happens as well. And it'll be in Orlando. I don't know. Did I just say that? Sorry. It's early and but we're fine. I'm not sick like I thought I was going to be sick, so that's good. Anyway, but everybody seems to be thinking about the same thing, and that is pitching. It seems like every single team, that's the big thing on their agenda. There are a handful of teams, but that's not the issue. Like you look at the Royals, had they had good hitting, they would be in the playoffs. The Padres, if their hitting was better, they would have won the division. I mean, like you have a couple of teams that are needing that, but really, I mean, a lot of it you're looking at pitching. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that there's a lot of competition for these guys, and so I'm not surprised that Fairbanks is getting a lot of talk from other people. And what that means too is that you kind of need to jump on things. Like the Diamondbacks tend to sign and acquire late into the offseason. I think they need to be more aggressive this season. And Mike Hazen talks a bit about this as well. So let me just let him tell you, because here he is, Mike Hazen, everybody. Just kidding. Mike, I know you're watching this. We couldn't get the schedule to work. I know. It's okay. We'll get you on the show at some point. He desperately wants to be on Locked On Diamondbacks, by the way. It's actually kind of embarrassing for him. But anyway, I don't know why I do that. It's a stupid joke. Anyway, he says, I don't know what the winter meetings will solve, that the winter meetings will solve all the problems or be a time frame when all your to-dos get done. But we're in the market right now. I know it's probably been more activity on the free agent market than the trade market to date, but I'm sure both will be moving in the next 2 weeks. So, which he's right. We can expect a lot of action here in the next couple weeks, leading up to, during, and then after the winter meetings. But yeah, as of right now, like the relief pitcher market has been busy. A lot of signings, a lot of stuff going on. Fairbanks is just the next in a long line of players who are getting signed. And let me see really quick. Actually, I can see there have been 21 players. I'm a little sidetracked. Don't worry about it. There have been 21 signings so far this season, this off season, I should say. 21. Of those 21, 16 are pitchers. So there are only 5 non-pitchers that were signed. One of those was James McCann. Another was Josh Naylor. We know those guys. We're best friends with those guys. Of those 16, let's see, 13 are relief pitchers. So 13 out of 21 signings so far have been relief pitchers, which is insane. That is a crazy amount. So clearly, this is what everybody is looking for and is wanting right now. So let's see what else. Let's see what else Mike Hazen has to say about all this, because yeah, it's a big deal. He says it's to be expected. He wasn't super surprised that this be the case. He wasn't super surprised about, like, he also talks about, like, he wasn't surprised by Dylan Cease getting the massive deal. He's like, yeah, he says it's the hardest thing to acquire, which is why it's so valuable, referring to pitching and also specifically relief pitching. It's why at the deadline last year, when we had access to players and teams were pushing in, such as Naylor, Suarez, Kelly, even Grichuk, we prioritize getting as much pitching as we could, and they really did. And I'm certain they're not all going to be winners, but for like Kelly, I mean, we got three starting pitchers, one in triple, double, and high A, and we got an MLB ready relief pitcher, all from just one trade, which was great. So that's cool. He also talks about, Ketel Marte and everything like that, and how it's got like this interesting dynamic of like there's this elephant in the room of like, we have this guy that you want, but we're not going to give him to you unless you make it worth it. So, but then he talks about how, because everybody's looking for pitching, and really what he's talking about is that so many teams are actually looking to compete. Like they're pushing forward. There are very few teams right now that are in a rebuild phase. Usually there's a lot more. And so Hazen says about that, I think it's a good thing for the game. It makes it tougher for us sometimes, but I think it's a good thing for the game. I think we've continued to see that trend. And I agree. It's totally, I love that. Yeah. More teams are competing, more teams are trying, and that's great. So anyway, there's a lot to happen. There's a lot of things going on. And Hazen said, we're still out and competitive, I think, in all areas to acquire players. I wouldn't rule out anything. We're going to be involved in everything, which is good to hear. I imagine that Mike Hazen is probably involved in just about everything independent of what the pricing is. And then from there, they determine if it's something that would be good. And if they're like, you know what, it would be nice, but maybe this and that, and then I can see them being still kind of stingy on like actually following through with stuff, but I'm sure they're tapping into just about everything they can. We're getting attention for all our good players, like Marte, even Lawler and McCarthy and other prospects. It is what it is. That's what happens. I'm still more of the opinion that we're going to be adding to this team externally as the most likely outcome, which I believe he is referring. I don't know if he's referring to trades or if he's referring to signings there, or if he's referring to the fact that more of it is going to be coming from trades and signings as opposed to call-ups. Actually, I'm not quite sure what that's referring to. The article that I'm reading this from does not specify. So anyway, a lot needs to happen, but it sounds like it's going to be happening here pretty soon. And again, I think the Diamondbacks need to kind of jump on at least the necessary pieces, and then they can kind of go from there. But anyway, let's take another short little break, and then we're going to talk about a handful of other bits of D-backs news, things that came up, and some of these things I think is quite funny and interesting. So don't go anywhere. Stay right there. We'll be right back after this short little break. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Last week, 2 weeks ago, it was middle of November. The Diamondbacks officially cut Tommy Henry, who was a homegrown starting pitcher. We had been developing him for years, and it came time to add him to our 40-man roster to keep him from getting picked off by any other team. And we non-tendered him. We cut him. He was designated. I don't know if it was designated for assignment, but he was non-tendered. So, which was kind of a shock. I mean, it makes sense. He hasn't really been super great, but like there's a lot like invested in him. So it's like, well, do we keep him? Do we not? He's a starting pitcher. We need that. But he did get Tommy John surgery. He was out most of last year, and he's going to be out most of, if not all of next year. So it's kind of like, I don't know. We got to move on a little bit. That being said, yesterday I opened my phone, checked Diamondbacks news, and see what's going on. And Tommy Henry has been signed to the Diamondbacks with a minor league contract. So basically, nobody else wanted him, and we were like, "Yeah, well, I mean, come on back. We'll see what we can do." And so we'll see what happens. I don't really expect much from this. I would love so badly for Tommy Henry to do well and to be great and be exactly what we need. But he's definitely not going to be that this year, no matter what. And he's probably not going to be that at any point in the future either. But we'll see. I mean, that happens all the time where players get kind of like they get something figured out and then they go and they're good. So I'm happy that we're keeping him. I'm happy that he's still in the organization, and I'm hopeful for the best. Speaking of players that are not in the organization anymore, another player that we cut was Austin Pope, who made a brief appearance in the 2025 season. Did pretty well, actually, but I mean, he doesn't. I think really the reason he did well was just because he was a new pitcher that nobody knew what to expect from him. That's fairly common in brand new pitchers, and so. But if you look at his minor league stats, they're not popping off the page. They're not wonderful. They're not great. And so when it was time to decide who we wanted to keep and who we didn't, I think it was probably between him and Philip Abner. We went with Philip Abner, who has a bit more robust numbers in the minors. Anyway, Austin Pope was signed to a minor league contract with the Braves. So he is going to Atlanta. He will likely go to spring training and see if he can prove himself and make it in their system. I think he probably will at least make it into their system, and we'll see what happens there. Another player who signed a minor league contract outside of the Diamondbacks was Jake Woodford. You remember him? My brother and I were talking about him last night, trying to remember who he was. We went to a game that he was at, that he pitched in. I think he gave up 2 or 3 runs in like 2/3 of an inning. And then the very next morning he was designated for assignment, and I like texted him. I'm like, dang, that's gotta hurt. So anyway, he has signed a minor league contract with the Rays. So hope all the best for him, except for when they play us, obviously. And then the final piece of news that I wanted to bring up is winter ball is still happening. Winter ball is still going on. I believe Jordan Lawler is no longer playing. I think Perdomo might be currently playing. I know he said he would. I think he's playing right now. And then Ketel Marte has said that he plans to play for the Tigres del Lecce, which is the team that Jordan Lawler was playing on. And now Gabriel Moreno will be playing in his hometown, where he's from, for the Cardenales de Lara in winter ball. So that's very fun, very exciting, keeping loose, keeping fun, getting better at the game and all that kind of stuff. Just a little bit that I wanted to share. It's kind of cool that he's going to be playing for the team where he like grew up. So that's kind of fun. Anyway, you guys, that's the show. Thank you so much for watching. It is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. I will be going out of town this weekend. I'll actually be out of town for the first couple days of next week. So I'll probably have like a weird, it'll probably just be a recording of me in my hotel room or something. But the show goes on nonetheless. Also, I believe Sunday is the first day of the winter meeting. So there'll probably be a lot to talk about. So you'll get all of that. Be sure to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Locked On Diamondbacks. We're on YouTube as well as every other place you get your podcasts. If you want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects at my website, slackshack.tv. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen of every day. For your second listen, find the Locked On MLB podcast, where there is no offseason, solely keeps you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed MLB fan. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks again, and I will see you tomorrow.